Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
He is Chris Stigall.
Chris Stigall.
I'm joined now by Chris Stigall,
host of the Chris Stigall Show.
So let's bring in talk radio host Chris Stigall.
Also, his podcast is a must-listen every day. Chris Stigall Show podcast.
And host of the Chris Stigall Show.
Let's bring in Chris Stigall.
Please welcome Chris Stigall.
The Chris Stigall podcast is presented by usmedicalplan.com. Save big money monthly and get better health coverage at usmedicalplan.com.
Well, hey there. Welcome into the Chris Stigall Show podcast. Thanks a lot for downloading this. And if I could be so bold as to ask a quick favor, I don't do this often, but if you have a second, do you mind, if you're an Apple Podcast consumer or you're a Spotify user, could you leave a written review and a 5-star review of this podcast? It helps others learn about it and spread the good word. We're so appreciative. And thanks a lot for choosing this show, as you do each and every day, consistently making this one of the top-performing news commentary podcasts out there in the universe of all there is to choose from these days. And I thank our sponsor now for years, John Ruhlman, who has been basically the principal sponsor of this show and has helped so many of you in this audience, most importantly. The reason I love doing business with John and the team at U.S. Medical Plan is because they really help people in this audience. I'm not just talking about people that I've heard from through email. I'm talking about people in my own life. Colleagues of mine, friends of mine, my own parents. I sent my parents to John and his team when they were looking for supplemental insurance with their Medicare. John saved them $400 a month. That's my senior parents, all right? I have a personal friend who had a daughter with some special health needs. He was spending tons of money a month on private health insurance for them. John got him a better plan, saved him $1,000 a month. I have colleagues that have saved hundreds of dollars a month. If you're a small business owner and you supply insurance for your employees, that's a generous thing to do. Is it really expensive? And you're thinking, maybe I can't do it anymore? Wait. Call John. Reach out to his team. They shop with 100 different private health insurers all over the country. If you're an Obamacare user, that is not getting any cheaper this year. I can already tell you it's going to go up, up, up. There are private health insurance companies out there that have much lower rates than you think and cover everything that you need. I know people assume if it's cheaper, it means less coverage. Not necessarily. Or it may be that you have the best coverage going, but you're not going to know until you reach out. Please turn to the team at usmedicalplan.com, usmedicalplan.com, or give them a call today, 877-410-4321. That's 877-410-4321 or usmedicalplan.com.
I'm not saying it didn't happen. I don't know that it didn't happen, but good to have you here, folks, in this Friday edition of the Stigall Show, live from your nation's capital. Beautiful morning. It's actually cool this morning. It's crisp. There might even be a little frost on the pumpkins in certain parts of the neighborhood out here. It's a little... Whew, I should have worn a wrap. I didn't bring a jacket to your nation's capital this week, Fast Eddie. I should have packed one. I've been so used to this. We've had this late fall heat surge at home where it's just like, I can't stop sweating. It's very hard to get into hay rides and pumpkin patches and football and chili, when it's still high 80s. Now, and I know come probably March I'm going to complain about this, but you know what I'm saying? Like, there's just no cool at all. I got here, and it was crisp and sunny. It was the kind of picturesque fall you would imagine.
Excellent. All right, well, just in time. Good. Yeah. I'm glad.
I should have brought a little something. A little whew.
Get in the spirit,
anyway,
Chris.
It was a great day yesterday. You might have met, if you were with us during the show, if you were listening or watching, you might have met the O'Briens. They won a nationwide contest. They could have picked any show on the Salem News Channel, Salem Radio Network that they wanted. They could have picked any show to join and listen to, and they chose ours. And we said, well, let's fly them to D.C. so they can check it out. And so they came in, and we had a great visit. And then we went to breakfast after, and I sat down and talked with the O'Briens for a while. What lovely people. Tim and Tracy O'Brien. Tracy's the one that won. Now, if this isn't the husband of the year comment, I don't know what is. I put a picture of this up on social media. I was talking with them both at breakfast, and Tim was extolling the virtues of his lovely wife, Tracy, and how great she's been, and what a supportive wife. He has been he's been a pastor. He's also been in the Guard. He is a full bird colonel with the Air Force, and they have moved a lot. They've raised 3 kids. And we talked about their different challenges with raising kids and how they've all come to Christ and how proud she is of that. What a great mom she's been. And then Tim says, she wins contests like this. She has tremendous luck I said, is that a fact? He said, yes, she does. And I call it God's little gifts to her for being the kind of wife and mother that she's been all these years. Oh. And I'm confessing that publicly so that I don't steal it and use it in private later, because it was such a great line. But he wasn't using it as a line. He wasn't being a cynic. He was actually being a really sweet husband. I was like, oh, that's good. I almost wrote it down. But, Eddie, I decided to just share it here publicly so that I wouldn't go home and steal it in bad faith later, because that's a good line, isn't it?
Yes. One more time, the line in its entirety. I don't want to screw it up.
These are God's little gifts for the kind of wife and mother that she's been when she wins contests like this. But yeah, she was selected, and she came, and we had a great conversation. I learned a lot about her. Her daughter has a tremendous testimony, which I'll share with you maybe on a later show. But she's written a couple of books. They're just an amazing family. They love their country. They're politically active. They've served their country. I can't thank them enough for their kindness and their visit. So to Tracy and Tim O'Brien, thank you, and congratulations again for your win. You know who else I bumped into last night? I went out for a cigar, Fast Eddie, here in Washington. I love to do that because I'm alone and I have nothing else to do but sit around and either eat and stare at the television or go out and enjoy a cigar. So I did. I went out and I grabbed a cigar, and I bumped into James Rosen, who formerly of Fox News, now over there on Newsmax, and we had a great conversation. I rehashed with him Obama-era spying and surveillance, which was kind of an interesting conversation, most of which was completely off the record, some of which he said has been completely overblown and taken out of context. But it's been very interesting. This guy has been in D.C. for almost 30 years, covering for both, I think, Fox, now Newsmax, and then Sinclair before that. So he's seen some things. And got a lot of interesting insights from James, but couldn't be a nicer guy. He's written a second book coming out in February on Justice Antonin Scalia, for whom he has great affection and interest. He wrote one book. I was telling him about the interview that we did a couple of years ago when he launched his first book, and he said, that sounded pretty interesting, that interview. I said, it was. I'd like to think it was. He said, can you send me a copy of that? I said, it was that memorable that I got to send you a copy of it? So Ed James has requested a copy of the last interview we did. He says he's not done with the second book. He was intrigued with some of the facts that I was sharing with him about Justice Scalia when he visited Philadelphia. And he thinks maybe he wants to include them in his second book. So I thought, okay, let's get that show over to him, lickety split, so we can be in the book. You know,
I got to get to the archives at sale at 990 The Answer. James Rosen, he's a very serious guy.
Very serious and smart.
Yeah,
like way smart. You know, he's the kind of guy you're talking to him, and you got to be really dialed in, or your eyes start to kind of, because you're like, I don't know, you're using vocabulary that I don't even know. Whoa. And it's late in the evening, and, you know, but no, it was a great night, and so good to see James. Anyway, 855-STIGAL is our telephone number. It is Open Line Friday. Today is a day we keep in the tradition of Rush Limbaugh, who so long ago started Open Line Friday as an opportunity for you to call in. If it's something throughout the course of the week you've not been able to get in on, today's your day to do it. It doesn't have to be what we're talking about, okay? It can be any topic, which is a real risk. In fact, the last time I was in this studio and we did this, it went sideways. So keep mindful in there, Ed. Somebody asked me if I had screeners on Open Line Friday during these visits. I said, I don't know. 2 weeks ago, I wouldn't have thought so. It was both barrels for your host a couple of weeks ago in this studio on Open Line Friday. So we're going to try it again. I'm feeling pretty good. There's a lot of good news out there to share. In fact, Donald Trump wants you to get out there and have babies quick. You know, China has the same problem, incidentally, and we're going to get into that coming up. I know there's a great debate on it, and we will tackle the elements of that debate. But first, I just wanted to quickly address something that I didn't tackle yesterday, and it's because I always like to let things play out a little bit when I see things that seem curious or don't totally make sense or seem like they've dropped out of the sky all of a sudden. You heard about the big group chat thing with young Republican leaders around the country supposedly sharing offline. I don't know. What was the vessel they were using to communicate, Ed? Was it, I forget what they do. Signal? I don't know. how the kids are talking offline in secret code now.
Yeah, the messages. Let me find what the messages were on.
It doesn't matter. Whatever. It's, you know, they're privately texting. They're privately sharing information. And it's full of stuff that's objectionable, of course. But my immediate question is, in 2025, sincere. How do you know? How does anybody know when you take a screenshot of something in 2025? How do you, if mainstream media and Democrats are telling me they have a screen grab of someone texting, that can be recreated by anybody. Now, apparently some of the individuals involved have been confirmed to have been involved and said the things, and so the organizations they were working for have released them or whatever. You know, J.D. Vance said, okay, I'll get worked up about this as soon as you address Jay Jones out there in Virginia, the attorney general candidate who says he fantasizes about killing Republicans, which is a fine point. Kids saying off-color things. I mean, if I had a nickel for every off-color thing I heard as a college-age kid, I mean, let's be honest, there wasn't texting back then. You know, I am so thankful that in the late 90s, I say this all the time to my college buddies when I get together with them. I go, can you imagine the kind of trouble we'd be in today if these things existed back in the 90s? There's no photographic evidence. There's no text evidence of the things college kids were saying and doing back then. They just did dumb stuff and said dumb stuff, and it went by the wayside, and you grew up and you matured. So, okay, whatever. You say, oh, that's shocking, those things that we're reading. Okay, fine. I mean, as long as we share equal outrage with the assassination culture that the Democrats now embrace, including on full display last night in some prominent debates. Again, I'll get into that in just a minute. But I sat on it for a minute because I just didn't trust the story. And then all of a sudden, I see this story pop up yesterday that U.S. Capitol Police are investigating a vile and deeply inappropriate symbol found in GOP Representative Dave Taylor's office. The congressman's office has not confirmed to CNN what the symbol was, but Politico reported that USCP was called, Capitol Police, after an American flag altered to include a swastika was found inside the Ohio Republican's office. Now, instantly when I heard this story, I thought, okay, so here we go. We're coming up on No Kings weekend, and now you have leftists who are planting stuff, swastikas on American flags in Congressman's office. And if that wasn't enough, this congressman, a little later in the day, after this had been looked into a little bit, issued the following statement. New details have emerged from a coordinated investigation into the vile symbols that appeared in my office. Numerous Republican offices have confirmed they were targeted by an unidentified group or individual who distributed American flags bearing a similar symbol, which were initially indistinguishable from ordinary American flags to the naked eye. My office was among those that were subject to this ruse. After a full-scale investigation, I'm confident no employee in this office would knowingly display it. The way this story was originally reported is that people in Congressman Dave Taylor's office were displaying an American flag with a Nazi symbol on it. So there were people running around to congressional offices handing out what looked to be American flags to different congressional staffs. And then the press was called, and they go, why are you displaying an American flag with a swastika on it? Do you see the setup? You see the game? It's a frame job. So we got to be very, very careful. The Democrats are desperate for anything, and they feel like if they can frame Republicans with a swastika on American flag, they'll go to that length that they must. 855 Stigall. More in a minute from D.C. Hey, good to have you folks. Welcome in on this beautiful Friday. At least it is up and down the eastern seaboard for the most part. Live look at Boston this morning on the Salem News Channel. Grab the Harumph Society today at chrisstigall.com. That's my 3 times a week newsletter, my 3rd installment. I've been writing about young men in this country, particularly those that I think are leaning toward conservatism and leaning toward faith, but a lot of bad theology is starting to compromise them, which concerns me quite a bit. And so I've been writing about that and why I think that is. I think it's a pretty sound theory, as a matter of fact. So if you haven't been a part of that discussion, today would be a great day. It's been a 3-parter this week. So you can find it today and the previous 2 installments from Monday and Wednesday. I put this out 3 times a week right now. May do more in the new year. Somebody held me to it the other day. They said, Stigall, you've been talking about this bonus hour. You've been talking about a Saturday extra. Where the hell is it? I said, I've been a little, it's okay. I didn't promise a deadline, folks. I'm not on deadline. You're not paying for it. Leave me alone. I'm going to get to it. I promise. I'll get there. You said in August you were going to do more work. I did, but I didn't say when. I said I'm flirting with the idea. I started getting emails yesterday demanding more. What do I look like?
It was just like, they talk about their staff, right? Staff is on it. It's just like
yeah. Look, I mean, we do have a team, and you guys work your butts off, but all of you are like buried. So each of us could use our own staffs. I don't have one of those fancy pants multi-million-dollar buyouts from networks. Okay, like I could launch my own network and hire a robust staff to pump out all kinds of content if I had $25 million payouts to leave a show. I don't have that, though. When I get fired, I just get fired and a nice T-shirt or something. All right? So not all syndicated hosts are equal. Yours is a very humble, modest budget here on the Chris Stigall Show. We operate lean, like the federal government should. Anyway, 855-STIGALL if you want to get in here. Let me just quickly, before we go anywhere, address the Islamist in the room. Mad Manny, if this doesn't bother you, and if this doesn't bother some of those aforementioned shows more than Israel, then you've got a problem with the show you're listening to. Understood? I'm just going to say again, if there's a single show you listen to that thinks Israel is a bigger problem than what Mad Manny said in a debate with Cuomo last night, you need to wake the hell up. You hear me? Is this on? Yes, I'll say it, and I don't care how ticked off you get. If your favorite podcaster that's got you bent around the axle about Israel is not talking about this today, they're compromised. That's all I can tell you. Money's coming from somewhere, and it ain't Relief Factor, okay? So let's get to it. Mad Manny says that Andrew Cuomo is not qualified to be mayor because he doesn't kiss the ring of Islam. Number 53 as we get started today.
He had more than 10 years, and he couldn't name a single mosque at the last debate we had that he visited. And what Muslims want in this city is what every community wants and deserves. They want equality, and they want respect. And it took me to get you to even see those Muslims as part of this city. And that, frankly, is something that is shameful and is why so many New Yorkers have lost faith in this politics.
Yeah, except, that is totally false. I worked with the Muslim community for many years.
Name a single mosque you went to when you were the governor. Can you name a single mosque you went to in 10 years?
Before you were ever here.
Before I was here?
Before you were even in state government. I worked with the Muslim community. Yeah. Imams presided over State of the States. We worked in religious working groups, tolerance groups, anti-Semitic groups, etc.
All right, gentlemen.
Okay. Andrew Colvett, Charlie Kirk's producer, who's kind of sitting in now and doing his show, said it this way, and I couldn't agree more. The fact that this guy just attempted to shame Andrew Cuomo for not knowing the name of a mosque is exactly how this works. They immigrate, they set up shop, and then you work for them. Welcome to 2025, where mayoral candidates in America are expected to kiss the ring of Islam. Well said, Andrew Colvett. Couldn't agree more. Now, for all these people who have been hysterical about Israel, okay, may I just ask you a question? When was the last time you saw any Jewish leader or candidate challenge their rival candidate by saying, you don't spend enough time visiting Jewish temples? Have you ever heard that? I sure as hell haven't. That's some balls. And that's what Islamists are. They're unafraid and they're unapologetic, and they're calling out rival candidates. They don't think you're qualified to be the mayor of New York unless you have knelt and genuflected to a mosque and Islamists. Again, if your favorite show is not talking about this, they're doing you a disservice. You know, in fact, Mad Manny, you should know if you don't. Headline from the Post-Millennial, taking in some $13,000 from 170 different foreign donors, New York. Just so you know, according to a report from the New York Post, records show that at least 170 of the roughly 54,000 contributions to Mad Manny's campaign came from donors outside the United States. Under federal, state, and city law, only U.S. citizens and permanent residents are allowed to contribute to political campaigns. Candidates required to return any illegal donations and knowingly accept foreign contributions can result in fine or imprisonment. Blah, 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 blah. Much like Tim Walz is a communist sympathizer to China, I'm confident. Here comes an invasion from an Islamist in New York City. And, I guess our colleagues Hugh Hewitt and Mike Gallagher just had a big debate moderated by Joe Piscopo there in New York. Fast Eddie, it's an interesting question. Hugh Hewitt's position is like the Buckley rule. He says that this should be down to a two-man race. Curtis Sliwa is the Republican in the race, and according to polls, he's trailing. Mad Manny is running away with it, according to polls right now. Cuomo second, and then Sliwa as the Republican, and a pretty distant third, according to polls. And so they hosted this big roundtable debate, I guess, and I was just reading about it. I didn't get to hear it myself. Apparently, Hugh Hewitt's position is, let's elect the most conservative, and everybody else clear out of the way. And in this instance, given that it's New York, Andrew Cuomo is the more conservative traditional candidate to Mad Manny. Gallagher said, to hell with that. Lock and load, trust in God, say your prayers, vote Sliwa, if that's the way you feel. And so, interesting discussion. Do you think it's Hugh Hewitt's strategy, or just, nope, damn the torpedoes, go with your gut, embolden, empower the real guy, and maybe there will be some kind of surge of support, or the vote will be heavily divided between Cuomo and Mad Manny, and Sliwa may slink in there on the margins because the turnout's not high? Where do you stand on that?
10 years ago, I'd be with Mike G. I'd be fight, fight, fight. Now, man, you are on the cusp of losing one of the greatest cities in the history of civilization. You are on the cusp of it, and Sliwa has no chance. I'm just going to say it right here, and you can quote me. Okay. My prediction folder, Sliwa has no chance of slipping in the middle, no matter what. I don't care if there's an October surprise of monumental proportions for Cuomo or Mad Manny, or both of them. No. He's not winning.
All right. That's Fast Eddie. You can quote him. And by the way, send him the email. All right.
Yes.
He's on X.
Let's go, Curtis.
Yeah, you're on X, right, Fast Eddie? People want to follow you there.
Eddie Cayazzo, really simple.
All right.
That's my name.
Have at him, folks. 855 Stigall's the telephone number on Open Line Friday. Let's do it. Let's go to Raleigh, North Carolina. Talk to Ken to kick it off. Glad you're here, Ken. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. I am a Harump subscriber. I enjoy it, and I highly recommend it.
Hey, brother, thank you so much. Incidentally, our winner, Tina, I was going to give her a complimentary subscription yesterday, and she said she's already a Harumper, which shouldn't have surprised me because she and her husband were delightful. But anyway, Ken, I'm sorry. Thank you for being a Harumper. What's on your mind today?
Hey, I don't watch nightly news anymore, the way they distort, distract, and omit the stories. I did receive a Facebook reel from Disney News on how David Muir, with the Alec Baldwin running his wife's Range Rover into a tree. And, of course, the way their activists, not reporters, showed it just showed the final 2 seconds of Alec running into the tree.
Yeah.
He then interviewed Alec, and it said this truck the size of a whale cut him off the road, and oh my God, it was the truck driver's fault. If you saw the whole video from the dash cam, it was clearly on a 2-lane road, solid yellow. The truck pulled over legally. It was in the Hamptons, and then Alec veered off to the right in excess speed and then hit that tree. I'm sure the local police in the Hamptons have been trained. Since it's a movie star or the Clintons, I didn't hear that they did a DUI test on him or issue him a ticket for reckless driving. And at the end, I told my wife, you know what? I think Alec probably thought Donald Trump was driving that garbage truck, and he was going to destroy it.
You know, bad luck just seems to follow Alec everywhere, doesn't it, Ken? Doesn't that guy just have the most unfortunate set of circumstances hovering around him at all times?
Yep.
Yeah, poor guy.
And then,
yeah.
I did watch it last night, and that big IVF with the fertility, great big thing at the White House.
Yes.
NBC did dedicate 18 seconds to that story after about 3 minutes on John Bolton.
All right. Yeah, we'll get into Bolton, too. The mustachio John Bolton indicted yesterday. Couldn't happen to a finer fella. Ken, thank you very much. Yeah, I didn't bring this up because I didn't really know what to say about it other than what Ken just offered, but it is sort of interesting. He was riding around with his brother Stephen. You know, Stephen's the conservative Baldwin. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, Baldwin is the video that was released is his Range Rover whipping around this garbage truck and crashing into a tree. As Ken said, the final 2 seconds of it. Now, what we're to believe is this giant hulking garbage truck suddenly pumped its brakes or weaved into traffic or whatever, causing Alec Baldwin great alarm to jerk the wheel with great severity and very suddenly run off the road and slam into a tree. Now, just walk it out. Here again, this is like a less severe version of Jussie Smollett. What does any of that make sense? You ever been behind a garbage truck? Do garbage trucks suddenly do anything, Fast Eddie?
Oh my gosh, no. They're driving you.
Yeah, there's nothing about a garbage truck that moves suddenly, does anything suddenly. It's flashing, it's blinking, it's big, it's clear. Here's what happened, I guarantee. You think I'm wrong? Garbage truck is stopped to collect trash. He's flying down the road, paying not a bit of attention, and he's like, uh-oh. He's seconds from slamming into the back of a stopped garbage truck to collect garbage, yanks the wheel, flies into a ditch, and hits a tree. That's exactly what happened. I mean, it doesn't take Matlock to figure this out, Ed.
No. It doesn't have to be, what you said, Jussie Smollett, doesn't have to be 2 in the morning in January in the ice either. It's like, let's walk it out.
So stupid. Let's go to Sally in Cleveland. Sally, I'm glad you called. Good morning. Welcome in to Open Line Friday.
Hi, Chris. I was so glad to hear that President Trump called out Hamas for showing their true colors when they started slaughtering, without even any proof, any Gazan that they thought might have some sentiment that isn't totally anti-Israeli. And so this isn't surprising at all. Anybody could have predicted it. But they need to be watched very carefully, because they will use any tricks that they can to try and get power back. They'll have to really very closely guard them. And true to Islamists, even here in America, they're trying to get a foothold worldwide, whether it's through rank voting, like in...
Well, or as I just said, the mayor of New York, Sally, right? We don't have to look any further than the mayor of New York. Thanks for the call. It is something to watch and pay attention to. Yesterday, if you missed it, what Sally is referring to is, and I'm reading this from the Associated Press again, so keep that in mind. President Trump on Thursday warning Hamas, we will have no choice but to go in and kill them if the bloodshed persists there. The grim warning from Trump came after previously he downplayed the internal violence in the territory since the ceasefire. Trump later clarified he won't send troops into Gaza. It's not going to be us, Trump said in an exchange with reporters. We won't have to. There are people very close, very nearby that will go in and do the trick very easily, but under our auspices. The president didn't specify if he was talking about Israel, but action by Israeli forces could risk violating terms of the ceasefire agreement. The president's shift in tone with Hamas was notable. Well, I mean, they're killing their own people. They're trying to reestablish dominance over an area that was just decimated. It's Mad Max and the Thunderdome. They're warlords. They're trying to reassert dominance over everyone in Gaza, letting everybody know who's boss. We're not going anywhere. And if you're seen as an infidel, if you're seen as throwing in with the invaders, Israel or U.S. or anybody else, we'll slaughter you publicly in the streets. And they are. And so our press corps asks Trump, what are we going to do about this? He said, we'll just blow them into smithereens if they don't knock it off. And we should. We should just exterminate the cockroaches. Ceasefire with Hamas. What is that? That's like a fish and water agreeing to not cohabitate anymore. I mean, it doesn't work. Hamas is hardwired to go kaboom to anybody that's not them. They have to be exterminated like a cockroach. They weren't. They haven't been. Trump is correct to say they've got to be wiped out. And they should be. Now, I don't know how you do that because they're so interwoven with the broader population, and the broader population, it seems, often is supportive of them. So that makes things difficult. That's where the moderate Arab and Muslim nations in this whole exchange need to be more active, and you hope that they will be, that they will join forces to eradicate Hamas on Trump and Israel's behalf. It's going to require the moderate Muslim world, the moderate Arab world. Some people don't believe there's such a thing. I think there is. It's going to take that community to say, we don't want jihadists here. We're trying to live peacefully here. We're trying to do commerce and business here. We're trying to all get wealthy here. We can turn the Gaza Strip into a resort destination and make this one of the wealthiest capitals in the world if you'll let us, but you got to get rid of the cockroaches called Hamas first. Otherwise, they're just going to keep making this a third world hellhole where you're all subjugated. They take all the spoils, and you live like a, third world hellhole. So it's up to you. You're correct, Sally, and I think Trump is right. The reality of it is, until they're wiped out, we're going to keep having this problem with Hamas. All right, off to Sacramento, California. I'm headed out to L.A., not Sacramento, heading out to Southern California a little later today for the big Town Hall 2025. I'm excited. I've visited California exactly once, Robert, not Sacramento, but good morning. Glad to have you here. Thanks for listening.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. I was so many things to talk about. Oh, my God.
You know what, Robert? My gosh, I hate interrupting you. But I just looked at the clock and realized if you've got some things on your mind, I'm going to run late if I don't take a break. So don't go anywhere. I promise. You are you're first on deck when I get back from break. That is a promise.
Not a problem.
Okay, thank you, my friend. Good to have you. Good morning, Dallas. Watching you on the Salem News Channel, listening on The Answer, AM 660. Hundreds of great radio stations all over the country. In fact, James Rosen referred to your host on X last night as Radio Titan. Chris Stigall. You like that, Ed? Should I lead with that? Radio Titan?
Titan. Yeah, because you know what? There's so many other names that get overused all the time. I haven't heard Titan.
I haven't either.
Quite a while. That's a good one.
I like that. I might put that on a shirt.
Yeah.
Maybe sell it. All right. Thank you, James. Good to see you. Good to have you on The Answer, wherever you happen to be. Thrilled to have you listening on our network of radio stations all over the country, some 400 plus strong. Speaking of Dallas, my friend, it's Mark. Mark's going to be in on Monday, right? Just wanted to tell you a programming note. Everything's fine. No, I haven't been stuck because TSA or FA. By the way, I'm hearing more airports are not showing the Kristi Noem video, which kind of disappoints me. I really want to see the Kristi Noem video telling everybody you may have flight delays because the Democrats don't want to open the government. But I'm reading that all the airports that I'm flying into aren't airing the video. But anyway, I'm heading out to the Town Hall event this weekend. I don't know if tickets are still available or not. You can go to AM 870 and their website out there, The Answer in Los Angeles. My friends Jen and Grant are hosting this big event. Scott Jennings is going to be out there. Larry Elder is going to be out there. Dinesh D'Souza will be out there, and a number of other great folks. I can't wait to meet you. If you don't have your tickets, again, I'd go to AM 870 to check that out. But anyway, that's where I'm going. Immediately after this, I'm going to challenge my immune system bigly today, hopping on a flight, heading all the way to L.A. from D.C. But I won't be here on Monday because, frankly, I'm just a baby. And I said, you know what? It's a Sunday evening event. Daddy needs a little rest. So Mark is going to be, sorry, if that makes me soft, it makes me soft. But I'm going to take Monday, recoup, and I'll be back with you on Tuesday. But you're in the capable hands of Mark Davis on Monday, all right? Now, I promised Robert, speaking of California, in Sacramento, who had some things on his mind. He was first up on Open Line Friday. Robert, thanks for your patience. Welcome back.
No trouble at all. Good morning, Titan Stigall.
Thank you, my friend.
I used to talk to Rush Limbaugh when he was local here, and I miss the hell out of him.
I bet.
And I'd like to suggest you introduce something else of what you borrow from Rush. And I do love the Open Line Friday. Otted lace dittos.
Remind me. I know the dittos part.
The dittos, otted lace dittos, was when someone called who mostly agreed and loved the hell out of Maharishi. and every now and then had a disagreement with it.
Okay.
And that was the audit, which is ditto spelled backward.
Audit. Okay. So does that mean that you are now implementing said ditto on this show to this host?
Audit, yes.
Okay. I'm ready.
And from what you said earlier about equality, remember what Pig said in Animal Farm? Some of us are more equal than others.
Yeah, right. I'm not sure. Remind me what I was saying about equality. I've forgotten already.
Oh, I apologize. I have too. I just remember that you talked about equality.
Oh, I don't throw that around very often, so I'm curious to know what I was saying. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Neither here nor there.
One thing that everyone does that I do not like is using the term Palestinian to refer to the peoples of the region.
Mm-hmm.
Until recently, Yasser Arafat's time, that term never existed. It was just American-Algerian War on Wikipedia, and we've been in conflict with Islam since 1785, for crying out loud. The peoples when Israel was created, the peoples who lived in Palestine identified themselves as Syrians, Egyptians, some Jews.
Right. So kind of a melting pot. What would you call them today, Robert, if it were up to you? What's the terminology you'd use?
Israelis.
Oh.
And treasonous Israelis as well, because they were born in the country proper of Israel.
Okay.
Palestine is a city in the country. Palestine was never a city-state, never a country. It's just a city, just like Carmichael, where I actually live, is just a city, a suburb of Sacramento. I'm not a Sacramentan. I'm a American.
Got it. All right, Robert. Duly noted. Your complaint is registered, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And
yes.
I appreciate that. Have a great day.
Thank you, my
Bye-bye.
friend, so much for your call. Telephone number 855 Stigall here on Open Line Friday. Quickly, because the show will get away from me if I don't. John Bolton, the president's former national security advisor turned adversary, indicted by a federal grand jury in Maryland yesterday. Bolton, the third high-profile Trump political enemy to be indicted in less than a month, now facing 8 counts of transmission of national defense information and 10 counts of retention of national defense information. Essentially, prosecutors say Bolton kept and shared with family members digital diaries of his activities that included all kinds of classified material from when he was national security advisor. Possession of this stuff is probably not going to be as big a deal as the transmission and sharing of it with others, in my view. Because we know that there have been I can imagine already that as a matter of literal law, yes, if you take classified documents and you're not authorized to have access to those classified documents, that unto itself is violating the law. But passing them on to other people and sharing them around, that's a whole new level. So there's been some debate about just exactly what possession means and whether you can or whether you can, I suppose, depending on what level, declassification, and if you can. The president certainly can. But at any rate, Bolton should be, in a just and fair system, in real trouble for the transmission, if nothing else. We'll get into more of that and stay on top of that story as it unfolds here. Excellence in dentistry. That's what you're going to get at Williamsburg Dental. My friend Bob Spinato is back on the phone. He's in Broomall, just off the Blue Route. And with 2 new associates, now you can expand and offer more hours, maybe evening hours, possibly weekends, Bob.
Yeah, one of the things that I told them from early on when they started with me was the value of not only their own time, but other people's times. And they run on a similar schedule that I do. If you've got a 1 o'clock appointment, you're in their chair at 1 o'clock. And it's something that across the board at Williamsburg Dental, we really pride ourselves on, whether it's an appointment with the hygienist or whether it's an appointment with one of our doctors. The other thing is we now have some expanded hours in the evenings, and even there's some discussion about opening again on some Saturdays for services.
Yeah, but not you. You're fishing. You're not kidding anybody. It's not you going to be working on Saturday. Come on,
Well, I'm in my 33rd year, and it should be the young guns.
That's right. You've earned it. You've earned it.
I feel like I have. Thank you.
Pick up the phone or go online, make that appointment, 610-353-2700 or williamsburg-dental.com.
Hey, are you ready to drop serious weight before the new year? Yeah, come on. I'm talking about at least up to 20 pounds. I bet you can even lose more than that, but at least 20. PhD Weight Loss is the trick. They've cracked the code with their metabolic reset system. This is a science-backed method that gets your body to burn fat first. It's worked so well for me. I lost over 40 pounds in just 4 months' time. I feel fantastic. This program is so simple, guys. They tell you exactly when to eat. They tell you what to eat. I'm the kind of guy, just tell me what to do. I don't want to think about it. Just tell me what to do. That's what they do. They customize the program to your body's needs and your specific schedule. PhD Weight Loss is the only program that guarantees success and your results. No starving, no endless workouts, no risky drugs. Just a smarter system that resets your metabolism. It shrinks that dangerous belly fat. It keeps the weight off, most importantly, for good. Now, when you call, if you do it today, they're going to waive your consultation fee. You'll get 2 extra weeks totally free, and they'll cover the cost of your food during the program. And just for booking, you're going to get Dr. Ashley Lucas's book, 5 Steps to Reset the Scale. It's quite a deal, but you got to do it quickly because this offer is only good until the end of October. Come on, lose weight with me. Call now. Mention the code New Year. Call 864-644-1900 and mention that code New Year. 864-644-1900 or visit the website myphdweightloss.com. 864-644-1900 or myphdweightloss.com. If you've been listening to the show for any amount of time, I hope by now you know about rough greens. I hope you know about Dr. Dennis Black. I've talked a lot about him. I met him early this year at the NRB in Dallas, and he taught me a lot. He made me really start thinking about pet health in a way I had not before. And when he introduced me to rough greens and told me how much my dog would like it, I said, I'll try it. He sent me a free bag of it. I sprinkled it on my dog's food today. Every day I give Dean rough greens. And I'm not kidding you. The dog doesn't want to eat until he sees I've applied the rough greens. Dr. Dennis Black is with us. He has put this knowledge, not just of rough greens, but his body of work for years and years and years down in a brand new book that you got to get. If pet health is important to you, it's called A Natural Path to Pet Health, How to Save Thousands on Pet Food and Vet Bills. Dr. Black, it's good to see you in person, my friend. Congrats on the new book. Welcome in.
Thank you. Good to see you again, sir.
Rough greens. You told me when we first met, you said dogs that don't eat and don't like eating, and you can't keep weight on them. Try this and see what happens. You told me, I think it was Glenn Beck's dog. You said that happened. I'll tell you this. I've never seen my dog so excited to eat, but doesn't want to eat until he sees. This is the truth. I'm not just sucking up. He loves this product, and I know you've experienced that for a very long time with other dogs.
Well, I have, and we hear it all the time. As a matter of fact, the number one complaint we have from people is my shipment is a day late, and my dog won't eat without the rough greens on the food.
Why is that? Can you explain what that's about? What's changed in a dog that he or she immediately knows that's what they want and not just the food by itself?
The reason that dogs are our best friends is because they're easy to train. And so when you train them with something that really is good for them and they instinctively know it's good for them, and then you don't give it to them, they're like, wait a minute, where's the good stuff? So it's just like a teenager. Basically, you get them used to doing something and then you change it and they're going, wait a minute, where's the good stuff? And so we try to make sure all of our shipments go out on time, but we hear that all the time. The other thing we hear all the time is, my dog used to leave a little bit in the bowl of food in the bowl. Now he licks the bowl clean. And one guy even told us a story about the dog. After he licks the bowl clean, he goes over to the water bowl, dips his face in the water, and then comes back to the bowl and drips the water in so that he can just get that last little moisture of rough greens out of the bowl. So,
this is the truth. Now, do you want to know what has happened with Dean, my dog? He's 9, Dean is. And this is the truth. I'm not making this up. He starts to salivate when he's about to eat. He's never done that ever. And he's like, he's like dripping. He's so excited to eat.
It's Pavlov's dog all over again. Yes.
No, it's cool.
What
did you? Yeah. You discovered. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you discovered this. You explained this to me as plainly as possible. Your product. You said, you know how dogs will go out and nip at grass on occasion. I said, yeah. I didn't really ever understand what that meant. You said it was their instinctive need for something nutrient rich they weren't getting in their food. I never considered that.
Live nutrition. Yeah. So here's the reality. Your grandmother taught you that you are what you eat. And dogs are what they eat too. Can you imagine if I brought home a 50-pound bag of something and said, okay, here you go, Chris, have this every meal for the rest of the year? You'd say, ugh, God, that's so boring. It's dead food, right? So the reality is there's nothing alive in dog food. Even the stuff that comes prepackaged, if you buy it from some farmer, it's not live food. It has artificial vitamins and synthetic things in it. What we do is we put all the live nutrients that your dog needs. We put it in one simple little spoonful. You give it to your dog and amazing things begin to happen. Skin and coat begins to clear up. Digestive tracts begin to work properly. Stools are better. Breath is better. Joint health is better. Energy levels are better. We hear it all the time. Every day we get letters from people. It's crazy.
You guys also make some killer chews instead of that rawhide stuff. You make chews that the dog's nuts about.
And you know
too.
what the problem is with those rawhide chews and those bones that are tied in a knot is over 1,000 dogs a year choke to death from pig ears and rawhide bones. So what we've done is we've got a product where we minced it and then we put it back together, reconstructed it in a stick. So it's a great dental chew. It cleans their teeth, cleans their breath, but when they swallow it down, it breaks apart into small little pieces they can't choke on.
Dr. Dennis Black's new book is called A Natural Path to Pet Health, How to Save Thousands on Pet Food and Vet Bills. One of the things, I got a note from some veterinarian when I was talking about you, and she said, don't attack us. Don't make us out to be the bad guys. And I said, I'm sorry if I gave you the impression. I know Dr. Black doesn't want to give that impression, nor do I. Vets are necessary. We love them. God bless them. But if you can avoid an expensive vet bill, just the same if you could avoid an expensive surgery, that's the point. That's what you want to help.
Yeah. No, I have a vet. Right. I have a vet who's less than a mile from here. But I was talking to your producer before the show. He had a $600 vet bill yesterday. Right. And he said, I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? Why? And I said, get the book. You'll learn. So what the book is, over the years, I've had thousands and thousands of questions asking me, how do I do this? How can I save on this? And so what we did was we just took all of the tips, all the tricks, put them all in one place. We got over 35 different recipes in the book. We teach you how to make your own dog food at home, which is really fun. It's easy. The whole family does it. Actually, we do it about once every 2 weeks. We just make a big batch of dog food. We have 3 working dogs here on the farm. And so it's pretty easy.
Are you down on packaged dog food? Would you prefer it made at home if it were up to you?
Yeah, we make all of our own dog food. And the reason is there's nothing alive in dog food. It has to sit on the shelf at the big box store for 2 to 3 years before you buy it. So there's the biggest misconception is that, you buy a package of dog food and it's got a picture of a wolf and your dog jumping over a log and it says complete and balanced nutrition. Nothing could be further from the truth. It is full of artificial colors, synthetic vitamins, dyes. They word it very cleverly, but the reality is most dog food is just junk. And it doesn't matter if you buy the most expensive one or the cheapest one. They're both made in almost the same factory. And now the popular thing is these prepackaged dog foods, which can be very expensive. I had one person tell me they spend over $800 a month feeding their dog this packaged dog food that they get from some farmer. And I'm like, wow, you could make that at home for pennies on the dollar. It's very easy. And so that's one of the things that we did was we included over 35 recipes in the book. Can you imagine if you had to eat the same thing every day for the rest of your life? You'd just be, I'm not interested in eating today. And so what we do is we make a different formula every week or 2 weeks, And so we mix them all together. So the dogs get a variety of food, and it's all healthy because it all has rough greens in it.
So these recipes and rough greens, it's all. What's the best way? Would you have people go to roughgreens.com as we've instructed them on the show for some time now?
Yes. So the easiest way is get your dog started on rough greens. I'll give you a free Jumpstart trial bag. All you do is go to roughgreens.com. I think the promo code for you is Chris. Is that right?
That's right.
I think, that's okay. So go to roughgreens.com, get a Jumpstart trial bag, use the promo code Chris, and you won't pay for it. You'll just pay the shipping. And then at the end of the receipt, there's a link that says, get the book on Amazon. You click on that, it'll take you straight to Amazon, and then you can get the book, which is A Natural Path to Pet Health. And I guarantee you, the book will save you thousands and thousands of dollars.
And if the earlier you start this with your dog, if he or she's a pup, right, the better off you are. Yeah. That's the point. No, any age, though.
We have our dog had 8 puppies, which are going to be 6 weeks old this weekend. So next weekend they're going to go to new homes. But they have been on rough greens since conception, right? Because we give rough greens to the mother, and now that they're born and they're starting to eat some soft food that we make for them, we put rough greens in that. So these dogs will have rough greens their entire life. And we've had dogs that have lived amazing years. German Shepherds typically don't live more than 7 or 8 years. Sometimes they do, but usually by 10, they're worn out. Their hips are worn out. Glenn Beck's German Shepherd, Uno, that was on rough greens, lived to be over 13. So, and routinely we hear from people. We had one lady whose Labrador Retriever lived to be 22. So
holy smokes.
You can really extend the life of your dog if you stop feeding them dog food, make their dog food, and add rough greens to it.
The book is called A Natural Path to Pet Health, How to Save Thousands on Pet Food and Vet Bills. Rough Greens, ruffgreens.com, promo code Chris. Dr. Black, we appreciate your friendship, your knowledge, your sponsorship. It is a pleasure to tap into that pet knowledge to keep our pets happy and healthy. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you for what you do, Chris. We appreciate it.
Beautiful looking sunrise on the Salem News Channel. Sun coming up with the Capitol building, the dome down at the end of the street. Beautiful shot, fellas. Well done there on the Salem News Channel. If you watch, get that app. It's free, and you can watch along with me every day. Or if you're listening on great radio stations like AM 570, The Answer in D.C., glad to have you there. Hundreds of stations all over the country. We're thrilled you choose us. And the podcast as well, if that's the way you prefer to consume the show later in the day. In fact, our winner, Tracy, said yesterday, she said, I got to be honest with you, I don't voluntarily like to wake up early. I do often because I want to know what you're going to talk about, but a lot of times I'll catch the podcast. I go, it's all right. I don't audit if or when you listen to the show. That's the thing. We've often talked about the unintended listener audit, when people say hello and they feel instinctively like they've got to confess whether or not they listen to the show, or if they're familiar with the show, or how long they listen to the show. I'll never ask you that. I promise. I'll never ask you to show your work. I'm just glad you're here in whatever capacity you are, whenever you can be. 855 Stigall's the telephone number on Open Line Friday. A couple of headlines I wanted to get to before we get back to the phones. How about this? Despite stories like Andrew Stanton, age 38, charged with threatening federal law enforcement officers whom he said should be shot, pleading not guilty, remains in custody. He's in Wisconsin. He's been charged with making threats toward federal law enforcement officers in a series of TikTok videos in which he promoted the killing of ICE agents. And, you know, in Chicago, you're seeing people ramming ICE agents, tear gassing ICE agents. It's disgusting. And yet, does this shock you, Ed, that a whopping 175,000 Americans have applied to join ICE anyway? What does that tell you exactly?
It does shock me, but it says, you know, that they believe in the mission, they believe in the cause, and more importantly, they believe in the person leading them.
Bingo. Department of Homeland Security Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin revealed that the updated recruitment number, the blitz, comes as the Trump administration is offering $50,000 sign-in bonus for new recruits. The agency has also solicited former agents to return to the force, many of whom have come back and joined. Retired agents have also jumped in to the fold. This is exactly what's going on over at the Department of Defense, or now the Department of War, and Pete Hegseth and the way he's running that operation. People want to be part of organizations that are lethal and serious about their work and have their backs in enforcing the law and defending the country. And they know they've got that at the Department of Homeland Security. They know they've got that at the Department of Defense. 175,000 Americans have applied to join ICE, despite the fact Democrats in major cities all over the country are physically targeting them and calling them enemies of the state and whatnot. That is a stunning development. Also this, told you, remember a woman called Jackie Norris out of Des Moines, Iowa, of all things. It is the most unbelievable story, really, because you'd think of this in a place like Portland or Boston or something, but not Des Moines, Iowa, and yet we covered it here, last week or a couple of weeks ago. The superintendent in Des Moines is an illegal alien who's packing illegal weapons and voted illegally in Maryland. He's a criminal, like 3 or 4 times over, and he was the superintendent of the Des Moines area public school system. The lady that hired him, or was ostensibly in charge of the board that hired him, is a woman called Jackie Norris. She was the Des Moines School Board chair. And she happened to be running for the open Senate seat that Joni Ernst is leaving in Iowa. Now, Jackie Norris, as you might also remember, was the former chief of staff for Michelle Obama, the former First Lady of the United States. Jackie Norris has now ended her Senate campaign. Long time in coming. Sorry, Jackie. Probably not going to fly in ruby red Iowa that you were in charge of hiring and then defending. By the way, she came out and defended the guy and said, we need to have empathy for the illegal gun-toting, illegal voting, illegal alien superintendent of the Des Moines area public schools. Let's have some empathy here. Didn't play well, apparently, in the Des Moines area. And so Jackie has ended her short-lived Senate campaign. We wish her all the very best. And NBC, bless their hearts, DEI is just not what it used to be. NBC News is moving away from diversity initiatives in broadcasting and has eliminated its teams dedicated to covering issues affecting Black, Asian American, Latino, and LGBTQ groups. They've laid off 115 people in their DEI department. Apparently DEI is not good for the bottom line after all. Hey, happy Friday. Welcome into the show. Glad you're here. Thanks for listening on The Answer in Philadelphia. I guess Philadelphia too. We're looking at Chicago this morning on the Salem News Channel. That's what I meant to say. AM 560, The Answer there. But The Answer's in Philly too. Our flagship station, by the way, in Philadelphia. Wherever you happen to be listening on our great radio station networks, or watching on the Salem News Channel, or catching the podcast after, we're thrilled to have you along. 855-STIGAL, the telephone number on Open Line Friday. Let me get a quick call in here before we go to our next guest. Frank is in Denver. Frank, I'm glad you called. Good morning. Thanks for your patience. Welcome in.
Chris, thank you so much for your program. You're a great salesman, and that's kind of what I was going to lead into the thing with Mondami in New York. He's a great salesman, too. He's smooth. He's got pause in his speech, and he outclasses the fellow rivals with a great salesman job. I bet you if you ask 10 of your friends who are great salesmen what they think of Mondami, they'd go, oh, my goodness, he's doing a number on them. The point I wanted to make, though, was that the contrast between what he's selling, which is old, rehashed stuff from socialism, communism-type beliefs, just rehashed and presented in a special small area of the United States with the most rich real estate around, and he's presenting it such that it's the solution. But the bottom line is that the capitalists make and the socialist communists take.
Yep.
A good contrast would be to ask the people of Hong Kong now, who after the communist takeover in, was it 99, how they have enjoyed the communist takeover since the communists have come in. I think that it's a special thing. The communists have learned to make money off of capitalism.
That's right, Frank. It's a great point, and I'm glad you teed this up beautifully, as a matter of fact, for our next guest, Josh Hammer, who, by the way, I'm thrilled to announce, is now officially joining the Salem Podcast Network, The Josh Hammer Show. You know, Josh has been a guest and a friend of ours for quite a while now. He's also over there at Newsweek as their senior editor-at-large, which I don't think I knew, actually. But Josh, welcome back to the show. I can hear Josh, but he can't hear me yet, Bobby, so we'll see. I just heard him a minute ago. 855 Stigall is the telephone number.
I'm having an audio issue.
Okay, we're having an audio issue with Josh. I can hear him, but he can't hear us for some reason. So we'll try to go back to him in just a minute. Let's go to Bill in Kentucky while we get that established. Hey, Bill, good morning. Glad you're here. Welcome into the show. Morning, Bill.
First of all, I can't start the day without watching your show. I mean, I love your show. You're articulate. You're insightful. You're intelligent. I just can't say enough.
And we're in no way related, to be clear, Bill.
Well, you weren't supposed to say that.
Well, first of all, Bill, you've made my day, Bill. So how about this? Could I make you an honorary harumpher? Do you mind, since I put this out 3 times a week?
I would love to be one.
All right, Bill. When we're done with this call, I'd love to put you on hold so I can get your email. What's on your mind this morning? Thank you for the compliment.
Well, you're very welcome. I just had an observation. As careful as you are with your words, I do have an observation, suggestion.
Okay.
As we talk about certainly what will be more and more people being indicted for, possible crimes, you used the words saying that John Bolton was essentially a Trump hater, enemy of Trump, whatever, political enemy was the phrase you used. And while that's absolutely true, I'm always concerned that when we talk about the factuality, if you will, of an indictment, that we be careful not to give people fodder by mixing that with the fact that these people happen to be enemies of Trump.
Committed crimes. Noted, Bill. And I don't mean to cut you off, Bill. I just got to get to Josh. So your point is duly noted that you're saying if we call them enemies of Trump, that sounds like he's just getting political retribution rather than actually accomplishing what is real, which is upholding the law and punishing for crime. Noted. I appreciate it. And Josh Hammer, we're going to try this again. Josh, good morning. I welcome you in, sir.
Chris, I hear you now loud and clear. Sorry about that, my friend.
Nope, that's okay. Glad you're here. Welcome aboard the Salem Podcast Network, by the way, Josh.
Thank you. It's an honor, Chris. It's a historic brand. I don't have to be the one to tell you that, obviously. I mean, this is a brand that goes back many decades. Salem's values are our values in the Josh Hammer Show. Your values, Chris, I believe, are our values on the Josh Hammer Show, and it's amazing to call you not just a friend, but also a colleague.
Now, you heard, we had a couple of very interesting calls that I'm going to throw both of these at you. Let me start with where Bill just left off in Kentucky. Can you react to the John Bolton situation yesterday? I think the transmitting of classified information is probably even more severe than the possession of classified information. I know different politicians have gotten caught up in classified versus declassified possession. Transmitting it, though, is a different deal.
Yeah, so look, there's a few things to be said. There's the old legal axiom, the old slogan that a grand jury would indict a ham sandwich, right? So, I mean, the fact that there is an indictment, I would encourage people to, on first blush, to not get too far ahead of your skis. Grand jury indictment percentages are typically very high, especially in high-profile cases like this. Having said that, and I try not to get into the gossip mongering business there. Having said that, Chris, I have personally heard for many years from many of my sources, from many folks who work in and around the government, in and around the national security apparatus in DC. I have heard many well-meaning folks who have openly speculated to me that John Bolton is leaking all sorts of classified information to try to push his agenda. So I am probably one of the least surprised people to actually see this indictment come down. So it's kind of a few things can be true at once. On the one hand, let's wait and find out a little bit more corroborating information. On the other hand, this very much verifies a lot of my priors, a lot of what I've been hearing for years. It's also a lot easier, of course, to get an indictment than it is to ultimately get some sort of conviction. That goes true not just for John Bolton, but when it comes to Jim Comey as well, a lot of these high-profile indictments there. But if what is being alleged is true, and again, I have anecdotal reason for believing that there is something to this indictment there, then John Bolton certainly deserves what he's likely going to get, Chris.
Meanwhile, this Mondani guy in New York, I was slack-jawed to hear him actually demand Cuomo kiss the ring of Islam last night in the debate. We played the clip earlier. I won't rehash it other than to say, and you saw it, you've heard it, and people haven't, go find it or listen earlier to the show today. He basically says he's mad at Cuomo for not having visited a mosque during his tenure as governor, and this should disqualify him from being mayor of New York. When exactly did we start requiring our elected leaders to go visit any religious institutions to win an election?
Yeah, I believe the word that comes to mind for this, to kind of take a slightly different religious cultural tradition that is my own, the word that comes to mind is chutzpah. I mean, this is tremendous chutzpah, right? I mean, to see someone like this say you have to kiss the ring, as you correctly note, of literally any religion. I mean, can you imagine if there were a Jewish candidate for mayor who
Josh,
said,
I said that earlier, and Lord knows if anybody knows, you know, if a Jew said, when was the last temple you visited? It said that in a debate. Can you imagine what you'd hear today?
Yeah, I mean, social media would be up in flames over how the Jews control this, the Jews control that. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. But I mean, this is also New York City. I mean, this is also where the 9/11 attacks took place. This was a whole massive debate just a couple of decades ago over the Ground Zero Mosque. I mean, I'm a native of the New York suburbs, Chris. I remember this debate very, very well. So for Mamdani, two decades, give or take, after the peak of the Ground Zero Mosque debate, to come in there and say, why have you not kissed the ring by visiting a mosque? It says, I think, all you need to know about just how much New York City has changed. It's not just New York City, though, Chris. I mean, I saw this clip maybe a month ago, give or take. I'm sure you saw it, too. This clip out of Dearborn, Michigan. A concerned Christian citizen comes to talk to at the town council meeting because he objects to the proposal of the town council to rename a street in Dearborn over a dead Hezbollah jihadi. And the mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, yells at him and says, you have a right to live here, but we look forward to the day that you leave Dearborn because your values are not our values. You are an Islamophobe. And, you know, I kind of saw this clip, Chris, and I said, look, if they're telling us that objections to naming streets over dead Hezbollah jihadis makes one an Islamophobe, then you're probably going to get a lot more Islamophobes based on that very definition of the word there. So it's kind of a self-defeating argument as well.
This guy Mondani said not only, you know, should Cuomo be apologetic and withdraw from the race because he hasn't visited a mosque, he also said that per international law, you know, as the mayor of New York, as far as he's concerned, if Benjamin Netanyahu were to land here, he should be arrested. And, of course, Martha McCallum asked him earlier this week about Hamas. He had absolutely nothing to say. Went stone cold silent, said, I'm ambivalent. I'm out of that. I mean, the guy's an Islamist, Josh. He's an Islamist. Like, let's just call it what it is, and fine, let's deal with it head on. Yes?
Yes, and his wife, his girlfriend, I can't remember whether they're married or not. I believe it's his wife. His wife posted a long post on social media bewailing the death of a well-known Hamas propagandist who was nicknamed Mr. Fafo. This was a big deal on social media about a year and a half, 2 years ago. There was this Palestinian Arab character in Gaza who simultaneously was appearing as a nurse, as a journalist, as a cameraman there. He was going all throughout the country. He was literally one of Hamas's leading propagandists there. He was in all these videos there, and he apparently has been killed. And Zohar Mamdani's wife put out a very, very lengthy post just bemoaning the death of this very well-known Hamas propagandist. Look, Zohar Mamdani, to me, Chris, is the singular embodiment of what is oftentimes referred to as the red-green axis, the red-green alliance, this alliance of convenience between the forces of Marxism and Islamism, which on paper share literally nothing in common whatsoever, but they do share a seething hatred of the United States of America, a seething hatred of Christianity, Judaism, and Western civilization more broadly. I think the Barack Obama 2008 intersectional coalition laid the groundwork groundwork for this. Zohar Mamdani, in many ways, really just Barack Obama 2.0. He's an even more aggressive, even more culturally radical, even more anti-Western figure. And I really just bewail the fact that New York City might have left this man be.
That's exactly right. He is. He's Barack Obama all over again. Slick talking, youthful looking, very interesting, sort of exotic. It's Obama all over again, but more blatantly Islamic in nature than Obama was overtly. Josh Hammer, I don't know. Can I hold you over for another segment, by the way? Do you have time?
Sure.
Okay, because here's what I need to ask you. You have come under withering attack, and anybody that's listening to this show and spends a lot of time on social media knows that Josh Hammer has come under withering attack from people suggesting that you're some sort of Israeli agent, and your relationship with Charlie Kirk has come under scrutiny and under fire. And people have said some of the most insidious things about you. Now, I don't have a personal relationship with you. I have a professional one. We've gotten to know one another as friends professionally. And I sent you a note. I said, I find this evil and disgusting. And I frankly, I mean, you're an attorney. I'll get into more of the specifics in a minute. Is legal action warranted here? Some of the things that have been said about you?
Chris, look, I'm a lawyer by background. I know a thing or two about defamation law. I've been studying and writing about this ever since I was a first-year law student. So, I mean, we're having the conversations with attorneys there. Look, legal action always comes with major pros and with major cons. So
well,
we're thinking about it.
Let me get into this when we get back, because this audience needs to know about it if you don't, and if you do, we need to sort through it. And more with Josh Hammer in just a minute, who is now part of the Salem Podcast Network, and yes, a colleague, but in no way know whether you're going to assert it or not, or whether you believe me or not. No, Josh is just a friend we invited on the show. That's the only reason. It's been a fantastic week. We've seen this peace deal struck by President Trump. All the hostages returned, all the living hostages returned, the remains that have been found of the hostages that did not come home alive, most of them have been returned. There is still an active mission on the ground in Israel, led by the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. You've heard me talking about this now through the month of October. IFCJ President Yael Eckstein, who's a friend of our show, she's been on this show before. She wants you to know how you can still continue to help IFCJ. That's the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. Here's Yael.
Right now are huge, both for physical comfort of food and medicine, of clothing and bomb shelters, what the fellowship provides, but also for a message of brotherhood, a message that we're not alone, that there are millions of Christians who are sitting in their homes right now, whether it's in Oklahoma or North Carolina, whether they're sitting in Michigan or California or New York, Christians who are turning to the fellowship through love and prayers and donations and saying, tell the people of Israel that they're not alone.
Yeah, and there is a, I'm going to get into this with Josh in a minute. The Christian theology that's being perverted and warped right now about our relationship to Israel is disgusting to me, quite frankly, and it's why I'm so proud to partner with the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. There's a banner at the top of my homepage if you too would like to give whatever you can give, chrisstigall.com. Make a generous gift of $25 or any amount to support IFCJ. And even though the hostages are released, you can still provide hope for them, their families. And again, the work of IFCJ continues. IFCJ.org. You can also go to chrisstigall.com, click on the banner. Here's the number to call, 800-982-8811. 800-982-8811. Josh Hammer returns with us. The Josh Hammer Show, now part of the Salem Podcast Network. And Josh, you have come under withering attack. As I was saying in the first segment, there are people who purport to be conservatives who are attacking you. You came on this show, interestingly, and talked to me about the relationship you had with Charlie, and then some text exchange came out in which you were identified as part of the text exchange with Charlie. And some of the most vile stuff I've ever heard came out suggesting that you are somehow in some roundabout or direct way tied to the murder of Charlie. And I would just love for you to address that on this show.
Sure. I mean, Chris, what is there to be said, for someone who has gone so far down the conspiratorial rabbit hole? I think would be a very polite way of saying I have some very more charged language that's probably better for off air. But what is there to be said about someone who has gone so far down the rabbit hole that she is ready to highly imply that a friend of Charlie Kirk's was involved in the assassination. I mean, there are no words in the English language that come to mind that are quite fit to describe this sort of salacious innuendo. I mean, we can call it loathsome, we can call it beneath contempt, demonic. I mean, these are some of the words that come to mind. Chris, the worst part about all of this is that it went down when I was actually offline. It went down when I was offline for about 49 hours last week for the beginning of the Jewish holiday of Sukkot, which many Christians know as the Feast of Booths or the Feast of the Tabernacles. And one of the amazing parts about the holiday of Sukkot is that if you look at Leviticus chapter 23, we are literally commanded to rejoice. In the Hebrew, it would say Ziman Simchateno. It is a time of our rejoicing. It is the Jewish festival that is most intimately associated with happiness and just pure, unadulterated celebration. Quite fitting, actually, given kind of the geopolitical juxtaposition of the release of the hostages from Gaza. I say all that, Chris, because I could not think of a starker divide between what myself and my family were doing in celebrating this Jewish holiday, in celebrating the sovereignty of God Almighty, in celebrating just the joy of life itself, and just posing that with just horrific, horrible things that were being said about me, and increasingly, Chris, that are being said about many public-facing, prominent, columnists, podcasters who happen to be Jewish, really all throughout the United States. It's really, really dangerous stuff there. I mean, Candace Owens is go ahead, sir.
Oh, well, no, I just want to say, Josh, that as for this show and as for your host here, and I want to be very clear with this audience and anybody who wonders about it. Now, you can't know for sure. I understand that. I'll swear on a stack of Bibles as a Christian, and I will tell you, I am under no obligation to host Josh Hammer or anybody else on this show. I welcome him here because he should be allowed to come and speak to these godforsaken charges that are just outrageous and irresponsible. And quite frankly, I'm getting a little sick and tired of people on our side suggesting that the biblical relationship to Israel is somehow the equivalent of never criticizing the government of Israel. And Josh, I know you don't believe that. I know Charlie didn't believe that. The holy relationship to Israel is different than the current government of Israel. They are different. Charlie believed that. I believe that. I think you believe that. Yes?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Yes.
And so it's just, to me, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. So the idea that Charlie was frustrated that some people were leaning on him to not allow voices who were upset with Israeli government decisions I mean, you and I talked about the debate you had with Dave Smith. Was Charlie being pressured to not host those voices? I suppose he was. He says he was. Would you agree with that in terms of his pushback on that, Josh?
So, look, Charlie was a friend, obviously, as you and I discussed at length, Chris. I mean, we were in pretty much daily contact over the final year and a half of his life. This now infamous WhatsApp chat that Candace Owens leaked to the world. This WhatsApp chat was started by Charlie Kirk, actually. Charlie started this chat. He named this chat Saving Civilization, actually, for the very simple reason that he was passionate about Western civilization. And this is why we became friends, Chris, because I, as an observant Jew, he is a devout Christian, we were of like mind on the imperative of the biblical inheritance in all that Western civilization means and all that the United States means. Now, he was able to separate between that and a case-by-case, policy-by-policy approach to very specific conflicts in the Middle East. So he had become at times critical, for instance, at least privately, of Prime Minister Netanyahu, but he was critical of specific tactics. He was never critical of Israel's need to actually finish the job against Hamas. He was never critical of the imperative to actually bring home the hostages there. And he also, Charlie, was of course the head of Turning Point USA, and Turning Point is an extraordinarily influential and powerful organization on the right, and he had all sorts of donors who had all sorts of interests there. It is true that he had some pro-Israel donors who were not happy about the fact that Tucker Carlson, among others, was still speaking there. That's their right to exert pressure as donors, and it's Charlie's right to say, forget you, I'm running my own organization.
Josh, we're going to continue this conversation for days, weeks, and months ahead. The Josh Hammer Show is our podcast network partner now, and we're glad to have you. Thanks for clearing it up here. You're always welcome back, Josh Hammer. Thank you for your time today. More in a minute.
MyPillow is excited to announce they're having their biggest 3-in-1 sale ever with a limited edition product, a back-in-stock special, and a closeout deal you're not going to find anywhere else. MyPillow bed sheets, only $29.88, any color, any style, and any size, even the king size. Regularly priced at $119.98, now only $29.88. Once they're gone, though, they're gone for good. My towels are finally back in stock, but not for long. Get a 6-piece My Towel set regularly priced at $69.98, now only $39.98. And for the first time, and the only time, get their limited edition premium My Pillows made with Giza cotton and a designer gusset. Queens starting at $17.98, kings at $19.98, and for a limited time, when you order over $100, you'll receive free shipping plus $100 in free digital gifts. 800-932-5056, promo code Chris, or use that promo code at mypillow.com, promo code Chris.
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to this Friday edition of the Stigall Show. Open Line Friday is what we call it, as we're looking live at a sunny, beautiful, crystal clear blue sky here in Washington, D.C., your nation's capital. That's where we've been for the last couple of days. Thrilled to be here with the team in D.C., making things hum along. Thanks for being with us, listening on AM 570 in D.C. or wherever you listen all across the country on our great affiliates, or the podcast later, or if you're watching on the Salem News Channel. Welcome aboard. Welcome in. 855-STIGALL is our telephone number. You're always welcome to participate on Open Line Friday. Hope that you do. Let's go to Randy quickly in Indiana. Hey, Randy, I'm glad you called. Good morning. Welcome in on Open Line Friday.
Yeah, hi. I'm just sitting here watching you on TV.
Well, thank you.
But, if a bird flies by, I lose the signal. We're just far enough from Indianapolis that we just barely get it. But that said, I just wanted to bring up the fact they keep trying to blame the Republicans for the shutdown. And, of course, we know that's not true.
Yeah.
But think about it. There's nothing in the law that says they have to filibuster. Now, who's filibustering? The Republicans or the Democrats? Whoever's filibustering is the one that's shutting down the government. Just that simple. And I wish that would be brought out more, because you don't really hear the term filibuster in the news.
Well, it's not technically a filibuster, though, right? I mean, they're not technically filibustering. They're just they're voting this down every time it comes to a vote, right?
Yeah, but it's the filibuster that they're voting down, because they don't filibuster like they did in the old movies.
Yeah.
They filibuster. They just say, hey, we're going to filibuster, and they don't make anybody actually stand there and do it.
No, that's true, and I appreciate the call very much, Randy. Point noted. This keeps coming up for a vote. They brought it up yesterday. Thune brought up another vote to fully fund the Pentagon for a year, and they still said no. David Bossie with us, president of Citizens United, part of the RNC, out of Maryland. Mr. Bossie, good to have you back. Welcome in.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for having me back.
How do you frame this? I mean, I suppose if you look at polling, it kind of depends on which polls you look at. Does the party in charge get blamed for shutdowns? I mean, historically, when Democrats are involved, they don't. So, how do you see this politically right now?
Well, you're right. Historically, the party in charge does get blamed, but these are not normal times. Donald Trump has made it very clear in his leadership that he's not going to have wasteful spending. He's not going to continue the waste, fraud, and abuse that's been going on in this country for generations. And so he's taken control of the appropriations process, going back to what is called regular order in the House of Representatives, which is where all spending starts. And so it's really a tremendous testament to his will, really, to be honest with you, because this is something that America doesn't see. The Democrats are, and your last caller, he is right, but I understand the confusion. It requires 60 votes in the Senate to pass an appropriations, anything of spending, okay, any kind of budgetary issue. So it's not a filibuster per se, but it is a filibuster-proof number that they need. So you need 60 votes. The Democrats will not join the 53 Republicans, and because that's what it is. I think that if the American people if they just saw a visual aid of Democrats versus Republicans, who's for it and who's against it, I think they would see it much clearer, but they don't. We're not seeing it. We're just hearing about it.
See, here's the thing, David. David Bossie again with us of Citizens United and RNC committeeman out of Maryland. I think that most Americans, to be honest with you, and I don't mean to disparage anybody that's collecting a check from the federal government, working in agency offices around the country, but by and large, most of us who are in the private sector around the country don't notice much of a difference in our day. Now, maybe that will change, but right now we don't. And so politically, I don't believe that Democrats have got some sort of chokehold on the discussion. I think most of the country understands full well what's going on here.
Such a good point. You know, the boy who cried wolf is where we are here. The mainstream media, which is a collective of left-wing people who support.
Oh, we just lost David, so we'll try to get him back in just a little bit. Telephone number 855 Stigall. Let's go to Illinois and talk to Larry. Meanwhile, hey Larry, good morning. Glad you called. Welcome into the show on Open Line Friday. Hi.
Well, I guess I'm sharing the same kind of line that the last caller's was, where the bird flew over and knocked the power out or whatever.
A lot of birds today. Not sure what the reference is, but glad you called.
Well,
what's on your mind, Larry?
Democrats have been giving us the bird for a long time. But one thing before I wanted to compliment you on your losing your weight.
Thank you.
But I also wanted to say, if Congress and the Democrats really wanted to show us they're honest, they would say, okay, we are going to live under the same standards you live under. The only one I know of is Mike Johnson. He lives paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah. David,
and the rest of these. Go ahead.
No, Larry, I appreciate the call, but David Bossie is back with us, and so to that point, interestingly, they've started asking members of Congress whether they're going to do without their checks. That is a point, David, that comes up time and again. We were just talking before we got cut off. The American people don't notice much of a difference in their day-to-day lives, but I am hearing a lot of people ask, why are members of Congress getting paid during this time? And now that's becoming a litmus test. So sorry, take it away, David. Welcome back.
Yeah, you're right. Look, there's not a lot of pain to be felt, to your point and question. The American people stand with common sense budget reform. They stand with President Trump. Look, we all want the military to get paid. We all want our federal law enforcement officers to get paid, the FBI. We want everyone who is doing the job that they got hired to do and doing it well to get paid. But there's so much duplicative efforts within the government. There's so much waste, fraud, and abuse. There's so much wasteful spending. That's what President Trump is trying to get a hold of. And what the Democrats are doing is saying, now let's just also go back. The Republicans don't support this CR either, okay? The continuing resolution is a continuation of the Biden-era spending policies, which we Republicans are totally against because they're out of control. There's still COVID-era spending money in there. And so we're against it, but we're for this to keep the government open and to make sure that America is functioning. And we can use those levers I was talking about earlier, the appropriations process, rescissions, to be able to scratch and claw back some of America's tax dollars. This is now out of control. The Democrats, they want a $1.6 trillion additional dollars on top of this clean CR to go to their pet projects. They do want to pay for health care for illegals.
Yes.
That's a couple $100 million. So look, these guys, they want to reconstitute PBS. They want to reconstitute USAID. They want all these things that they want, and they come with a price tag. And they are willing to shut down the government, to give America pain, to fight the same old battles they've already lost.
How do you, just briefly, David, could you tell me how you think this ends and how long you think this goes? Do Democrats blink or no?
Man, that's a great question. If I knew the answer to that one, if I had a crystal ball. But I got to tell you, it's the question of the day every day right now.
Yeah.
It is going to be, I believe, a lot longer. I think this goes into November.
Wow.
I see this going another couple of weeks easily. There's not even conversations to begin. Usually these things, they go a little bit, then there's a beginning of a conversation, then there's a movement, within that, they come to some consensus on a few issues, and then it comes together. That usually takes several days or a week. From the beginning of the conversation, there's not even a conversation yet. So this thing's going to go on for a while.
All right, David Bossy, we will stay in touch as it does, and I hope you come back soon. Sorry for the hiccup earlier, but thanks for your time today, my friend. Good morning. Glad to have you along from your nation's capital today. The Stigall Show coming to you live this morning in Miami, all across the great state of Florida and around the country on great radio stations. We're looking at the Flamingo Cam there at the zoo on the Salem News Channel. Thanks for listening if you are on a great radio station closest to you, and always catching the podcast. We're so glad that you do. If you're a podcast listener or you want to get caught up regularly on shows you might have missed, it's a great way to do it. Of course, anywhere you stream podcasts. You can go to chrisstigall.com for all of that, my social media as well. I got a new edition of the Harump Society coming out. Those of you that have been reading it this week, you know, and I've really appreciated your commentary. Smart stuff. I mean, this is the smartest audience out there. I am convinced of that. It's always been the case during my years of radio. Smartest audience out there. I assume that there are always people smarter in this audience about everything at all times on all subjects, so I always value the input. And at the Harump Society, the comments have been fantastic. But this has been my three-part series on what I think is the hijacking of American youth by some really cynical forces. And I don't think it's the young men in this country who are to blame, but I think it's some very sinister people that are taking advantage of them. And I explain all that in part 3 today at the Harump Society. 855-STIGALL is our telephone number as we continue on Open Line Friday. Let me get to the subject of IVF quickly. Trump talked about this yesterday. You know, I think it's all kind of born out of what RFK Jr. is alerting the country to. Trump has talked about this as well. Give me number 44, if you would, please, Paulie. Here's RFK Jr., HHS Secretary, talking about the sharp decline in birth rate in this country.
Vision, your commitment to our country. When my uncle was president, the fertility rate in this country was 3.5%. Today, it is 1.6%. The replacement rate, in other words, the amount of fertility that you need in order to keep your population even, is 2.1%. We are below replacement right now. That is a national security threat to our country. And we know why this is happening. And President Trump is addressing the root causes through his MAHA agenda of reducing endocrine disruptors, the exposure to chemicals that decrease fertility.
Dr. Mehmet Oz was also on scene. He talked about President Trump's commitment to raising the national birth rate, number 46.
Now, I know what you're all thinking, and you're probably right. There are going to be a lot of Trump babies. I think that's probably a good thing. But it turns out the fundamental creative force in society is about making babies. It's about creating. And this country, the one that President Trump is leading so beautifully, has been a country of abundance, not scarcity. To have abundance, you have to address the fact that we had 3.6 million babies last year, which is beautiful. 3.6 million miracles. That's 500,000 less babies than we would ideally have had, even to replace our current population.
Okay, so the number's not there, and RFK Jr. kind of summarized it this way in number 45.
I saw on an airplane the other day, you said that you didn't believe that you were going to get to heaven. You're doing God's work here. You've made peace in the Middle East, which is beyond anybody's imagination. And now you're giving millions of Americans a chance to have babies. And you're doing this while the government is locked down by the Democrats. But this administration has not stopped working for the American people. And that's because of your energy, your commitment, your vision, and I want to thank you for allowing me to be part of it.
So President Trump yesterday announcing efforts to expand access to in vitro fertilization, making treatments more affordable. The move includes 2 priorities: lowering drug prices, making IVF treatment more affordable for women seeking to conceive but who struggle to afford the expensive procedure. Listen, at the same time we're dealing with a birth rate problem here in the United States, China is too. The biggest challenge China faces right now isn't the Trump administration and its campaign to decouple the 2 biggest economies in the world. This is from the Washington Post. It comes from within. China is experiencing population decline on a scale and at a speed the world has never seen. So we're quite literally in a baby-making race with China right now. I think he thinks this in vitro thing is the way to go. But listen, I hear you and I understand, pro-lifers, the objection to this. It's the discarding of life to get to life. Discarded eggs during IVF. You're dealing with multiple eggs, hoping one or two of half a dozen stick. And so the objection to it, of course, as we all understand, is you take 6 to implant in the uterine wall and 1 or 2 make it. The pro-life argument is you're basically throwing a lot of potential babies and life at the wall and hoping one sticks, and that's the discarding of life. I'm well aware of the pro-life objection to this. President Trump says he's not really aware. He thinks the position of IVF is very pro-life. Not going to settle that here today. Well, the one thing that is no secret, and I think seems to be growing increasingly, is if you watch football, both at the collegiate level and the professional level, the thing that does my heart good anyway, I'll speak for myself, is I see men of faith continuing to grow and grow and grow in a more prominent way. And one of the many men across the league, both who play and who coach, is joining us today from your Seattle Seahawks, ladies and gentlemen. Leslie Frazier joins us today, and I am, first of all, thrilled to have you. You've gone through a tremendous amount of work to be with us today, Coach. Thanks so much for your time.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
If I could just set the table for maybe folks that don't know about Seattle. By the way, congratulations so far. You're tied to lead the division right now out there in the West. So congrats. You're off to a good start. How are things going?
Well, so far so good. We had a big win in Jacksonville on Sunday. That was a much needed win. We had lost a close game to Tampa Bay the week before. So it was great to go on the road and come back with a victory. And as you mentioned, we're up there in the top of our division. So we just got to keep going forward. We got a big game coming up on Monday night against the Houston Texans. So hopefully your listeners will be tuned in and we can get another victory.
I am fascinated to know your role as I read it, and forgive my ignorance. I read you listed as assistant head coach. Is that true? Is that correct?
That's correct. That's my title, yes.
So if you could explain that dynamic a little bit. We know Mike Macdonald is technically head coach of the team. What is in the role of assistant head coach? I'm curious about how that works and the role you serve.
Sure. So in my role, I pretty much do everything the head coach is asked to do, with the exception of being the head coach. I'm there to assist Mike in all matters, whether it's personnel, whether it's scheduling our practices or preparing for meetings. And for me, my background is defense. So I spend some time with our defense. I spend time with our special teams. I spend time with our offense, just trying to share information and insight that can help all areas of our team succeed. And when Mike called me after he had gotten the head coaching job here in Seattle, knowing that it was going to be his first time being a head coach, and at the time he was the youngest head coach in the NFL, he said, "Leslie, I really need you to come up and help me to get this thing started and kick it off right." And I was excited about that opportunity. Mike and I had worked together before in Baltimore, where he was an assistant for me when I was with the Baltimore Ravens at the time. And so I've enjoyed our first year together. Now we're in our second season, and we're looking forward to hopefully a really, really good year.
That is such a fascinating dynamic. First of all, I think it speaks well of Mike Macdonald that he's leaning on your tenure and your history. I would imagine that there are a lot of egos in coaching, and it would be very, very tough to admit, boy, I'd really like an extra set of eyes and ears and somebody to kind of come in. I don't know your relationship. Is it pretty open door? You see something that you think's not working, you're free to go in and tell him so?
Absolutely. That's part of my role. And I'm so thankful that Mike has the attitude, because you're right, there are a lot of egos in this profession. And I'm so thankful that Mike has the attitude where we can talk about everything, and I don't have to hold back. I can encourage him, at the same time be able to say, hey, I'm not sure we're going in this direction is the right direction to be going. And And he wants to rely on the fact that I've been a head coach before, been a coordinator in the league, and worked at just about every level at the NFL, in the NFL as a coach. And so to have that wisdom and have someone who will accept it without it becoming an issue, believe me, it's refreshing, because that's not always the case.
I bet not. Leslie Frazier with us, assistant head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. And this is not your first rodeo, as you say. You have a storied professional career as a player, also a coach. You're one of only 28 people. I didn't know this stat. There are only 28 of you in the entire league that can say you both played for and coached for Super Bowl winning teams. That's pretty rare company. I didn't know that stat until today. Yeah, no, it's that is pretty rare when you consider the number of Super Bowls, number of players that have come through this league, and so been very blessed for sure, very blessed. And one of those that you worked alongside throughout your career was Tony Dungy, and this is how we can pivot into. And I've had the pleasure of interviewing Coach Dungy a couple of times. This is a man, an extraordinary upright man, a man of faith we know well, and I assume you probably had a great relationship in that capacity with the coach. Yeah, Tony and I, when you talk about winning a Super Bowl, Tony and I were together in Indianapolis. He was the head coach. I was one of the assistant coaches when we won the Super Bowl in Indianapolis. And we had known each other for many years prior to our winning a world championship in Indianapolis. And we've continued that relationship, over the years. But he's been a tremendous mentor and friend to me throughout. As a matter of fact, he was up here doing our training camp this past season, just kind of observing and giving us all some tips on what we're doing and how we're doing it, because of his vast experience as a head coach and been in this game for as long as he has. All right, and that is the conversation you're going to hear in its entirety on the podcast on Monday on the Chris Stigall Show podcast exclusively. That conversation continues. It was one of my favorite of the week. Leslie Frazier is the assistant. I'd never heard of this before. Eddie, had you ever heard of assistant head coach until we talked to Leslie Frazier?
I have not, no.
I didn't know anything about that. So anyway, it was a great conversation. And the bigger point of this conversation that you're going to love is what he talks about across the league, coaches throughout the league who have a very deep prayer life and they connect with one another regularly. Bobby, kill your mic there, please. And the beautiful relationship that Leslie has with many coaches throughout the league. You're going to hear that conversation exclusively in the podcast on Monday. Also exclusively on the podcast on Monday, a conversation with the Federalist John Daniel Davidson and his assessment as to the state of Christianity in 2025 throughout the country and the way he sees things. It's a fascinating write-up that I read to you a couple of weeks ago. I don't get to talk with John very often, and so we have some great interviews on Monday because I'm going to be away. Mark is going to be here with us on Monday as I'm heading to L.A. There's a lot going on. Fast Eddie's head's about to explode running air traffic. You should see Eddie. He's got the look of a man who's hungover. You look like me when I used to drink a lot of booze, Ed. That's what you look like right now. You doing all right?
Yeah, and I haven't even started yet, man. I didn't even get to the fun part of a Friday. Come on.
Just 20 more minutes. But at any rate, that's Monday. So Mark Davis will be in for me on Monday. But we will have brand new podcast material, and that Leslie Frazier conversation is one of them. You're not going to want to miss it. I loved this guy. I'd never met him. I didn't know anything about what was going on. And I'm a Chiefs fan, always have been a Chiefs fan, but I got to tell you something. Like in the corner of my eye now, I'm going to be watching Seattle and thinking a little differently about the Seahawks, knowing who's their assistant head coach. He's a very, very good man. All right, 855 Stigall is our telephone number on Open Line Friday. Couple of bits of news this morning. Speaking of football, thinking about Philadelphia, thinking about our Eagles, and Philadelphia's rush hour, I'm reading on X this morning, turning into a crime scene after a shooting on the northbound platform of SEPTA's City Hall station. Eddie, this is one of the busiest terminals in the city, right there under City Hall in Center City, Philadelphia. If you don't know SEPTA, this is kind of where major lines all intersect right under City Hall. And apparently the shots were fired. One person rushed to a nearby hospital, condition not released yet. Police sweeping the underground station. SEPTA, that's the Southeastern Pennsylvania Transit Authority, They're having a lot of trouble anyway. Crime is a huge problem. This can't help.
No, not at all, especially when they have advocates now, paid advocates trying to get them more money actively. And part of that process is to bring crime down throughout the system and get fare evasion down, because they have to show that they're doing the work. Why are we going to give more money to SEPTA if they're not doing the work? And this is very bad. I mean, sadly, I just feel for anybody that is there this morning.
You're a Philadelphia lifer. Would you support the idea of President Trump dispatching guardsmen into major cities like Philadelphia? Would you say welcome in to get a handle on crime in places like Philadelphia?
Yes, I would. Absolutely. Yep.
I mean, look at this. A judge this week sentenced 2 teenagers to probation but no jail time. You know, Edward Korestein, the 19-year-old that's known as Big Balls with Doge in the Trump administration. Remember, he was beaten for getting involved in a potential carjacking. A couple of teenagers just beat the hell out of him. A judge sentenced them to probation, no jail time, after that brutal assault. Meanwhile, ICE has arrested an illegal immigrant in Chicago who was serving as a local cop. Taken into custody as part of an ongoing Operation Midway Blitz. I mean, the Homeland Security's border agency says it has cleaned up a problem from the Biden era that let illegal immigrants enter the United States and claim asylum despite using bogus identity documents. The country is awash in crime, folks. And President Trump is trying to crack down on it. And what are the Democrats doing? Well, they're running Virginia Attorney General candidates like this guy, this Jones guy. Listen to this. This was the debate last night between the Attorney General candidates. Remember, the Jay Jones, the Democrat, he has been caught now texting people in private about how he wishes to assassinate Republicans. And this played out in a debate between him and the Republican, Jason Miyares, last night, number 55, Paul.
And I find it a little bit stunning that today you say one of the pillars of your public safety platform is protecting children. Were you protecting Jennifer's children when you said you wanted to see them die in their mother's arms? How can anybody who's ever worked in any of the crimes against children, all of the areas of federal and state local law department, how can they ever take you seriously, be the top prosecutor, knowing that you view that children should die to advance a political agenda? It's unconscionable, and if you were truly sorry, you would not be running for this office because you disqualified yourself.
It's just true. It's disqualifying. You can't run as the state's top cop after you've been caught saying you'd like to murder Republicans. Barrett's in Houston. Barrett, I got about a minute for you. Take it away, my friend. Good morning. Welcome in.
Yeah, well, what we're witnessing is called the Barabbas syndrome. It is sweeping the world. You know who Barabbas was. And the Democrats, abortion and sodomy is sacred to them, and criminals are heroes, and patriots are evil. This is what's happening. Irina Zaruska is hated because she came here legally, and it's got to be stopped. And one of the ways we stop it is we've got to go to church and pray for Halloween. Some people are planning on putting on the red hoodie that De Carlos was wearing when he killed Irina Zaruska. I recommend going to the churches and just pray. America is in extreme spiritual danger right now, Mr. Stigall.
Well, listen, Barrett, I appreciate that. Prayers are always important, and we do. We are all, I think this country should spend more time on bended knee in prayer. Advice well taken. Thank you, Barrett. I love that. Looking at the penguin cam on the Salem News Channel. A couple of those penguins, that looks like us after a long week. See that one? That's Eddie. That's Eddie back there in penguin form, just laying against the wall. He totally quit, Ed. He just hung up. He's done.
Look at that.
Look at the guy just sleeping against the wall.
What do they call them? Spirit animals? There's mine right there. Look at that.
The penguin cam on the Salem News Channel. Thanks for listening all across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and around the country on great radio stations. And thanks for watching on the Salem News Channel, listening on the podcast. Again, the podcast on Monday featuring the assistant head coach of the Seattle Seahawks and a wonderful story of the faith community that spans the NFL. That's exclusively on the podcast on Monday. Mark Davis will be in for me, as I'll be at the Town Hall event with Jen and Grant and our friends in Los Angeles this weekend. I'm really looking forward to it. Scott Jennings is going to be there. Dinesh D'Souza is going to be there. What a time. This will be my first visit to Southern California since we launched the syndicated show here, the Chris Stigall Show in Los Angeles. So I hope I get to meet you and shake your hand if you're out that way.
And I'll be back with you on Tuesday. Like I said, Mark will be here on Monday. Now, look, as we head into the weekend, let me remind you one more time about the campaign to support the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. We are proud to affiliate with them in their critically important work. And now that all the living hostages are back home in Israel, the fellowship is more active than ever on the ground, helping men, women, and children. Yael Eckstein, the IFCJ president, telling you how you can help. Listen.
The needs right now are huge, both for physical comfort of food and medicine, of clothing and bomb shelters, what the fellowship provides, but also for a message of brotherhood, a message that we're not alone, that there are millions of Christians who are sitting in their homes right now, whether it's in Oklahoma or North Carolina, whether they're sitting in Michigan or California or New York, Christians who are turning to the fellowship through love and prayers and donations and saying, tell the people of Israel that they're not alone.
And if you'd like to be a part of this campaign, if you'd like to give whatever you can, and I mean whatever you can, if it's $1, a couple of bucks, $5, whatever you feel in your heart to help support this critical mission work that they do, we're thrilled to be partners with them at IFCJ. And you can go to chrisstigall.com. There's a banner right at the top of my webpage, chrisstigall.com. And you can click on that and give there, or you can call today and give at 800-982-8811, 800-982-8811. Or go to chrisstigall.com and again, click on that banner at the top of the site. Speaking of Pittsburgh, John has been waiting patiently on Open Line Friday. Hey, John, welcome into the show. Thanks for waiting.
Hello.
Morning. What's on your mind?
Hey, Rush had a couple sayings, one of which was to illustrate the absurd by saying the absurd.
Yes.
Those examples were these stupid sex change operations. The one was from a male to a female. The procedure was called a lobotomy.
A lobotomy. Yeah, I believe is what he called it. Or an addictomy is what Rush used to call them. Yes.
Yeah, the other one was from female to male.
Addictomy. Yeah, absolutely right, John. I miss him. We miss him every day. That's why we do Open Line Friday. Thank you, John. Have a great weekend. Thanks for listening in Pittsburgh. Speaking of, while we're on Pennsylvania real quick, top Democrats in Pennsylvania, we told you this was coming. I've been warning you for a while now. We saw this coming from downtown. The more pro-Israel John Fetterman became, the more committed Democrats were to taking him out, and this is what Axios has today. Top Democrats in Pennsylvania are maneuvering to run against Fetterman in a primary contest in 2028, threatening to tear the party apart in the biggest battleground state in the nation. Do you think they will successfully oust him from the Democrat Party? Fast Eddie, if you were a betting man, you know how vicious partisan left-wing politics can be in Pennsylvania. Do you think they will successfully vanquish John Fetterman from their ranks?
I don't think they have enough to do it this time around. I don't think they can pull it off.
That will be a fascinating one to watch. We'll keep a sharp eye. Let's go to Florida. Talk to Anthony next on Open Line Friday. Hey, Anthony.
Hey, good day, Chris. I stand perplexed. Conservatives, Republicans, and to a certain extent, Christians, when they get on shows like the detached from reality banshees from the spew, and then getting validation from the viewpoints of atheist and Jewish denier and ashamed of being Jewish, Bill Maher, and the late braggish atheist Christopher Hitchens, who are void of any Christian history. To seek validation from these clowns it's incredibly bewildering. You know, you got Dinesh D'Souza, you have Larry Taunton, you have guys like that who are profoundly knowledgeable about Christian history, and yet they seem to get on these shows or seek these clowns out for validation. To stop it. We're on solid ground as believers. Stop looking for validation from these individuals. Thank you so much, Chris.
Hey, listen, amen. No, you certainly shouldn't get your theology from The View or Bill Maher, who's an atheist, incidentally. No, you're exactly right. By the way, you mentioned Dinesh. This is just, I'm not plugging, I'm just telling you, I recommend it to you. I watched it a couple of weeks ago and I loved it. The Dragon's Prophecy. You talk about spiritual warfare, you talk about Christian history, Jewish history, Islamic history. It is a
fascinating film at salemnow.com if you want to watch it. I recommend it to you. I'm going to see Dinesh this weekend. I can't wait to tell him in person. I'm going to see Scott Jennings, too. This will be the first time I've met Scott Jennings, Fast Eddie. Never met him before. You want me to pass along any information?
Yeah, just tell him I said hi and hope he enjoys our studio there. We got a great team.
We do. And thanks to the team for having us this week. G-Love and Pop-Up Paulie, Bobby B, thanks for being with me and making the show hum here in Washington, D.C. So that's a wrap for another Chris Stigall Show podcast. Thanks for committing to it, listening to it all the way through. You're a fighter. I like that about you. Hope you'll leave it a 5-star review and a written review. Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We'll see you next time here on the Chris Stigall Show podcast.
The Chris Stigall Show podcast.